But everything's canon, shouldn't I know?
This one throwaway line in this one random ass season 5 episode, all the way back from 2015, has done way more for the series than I had ever anticipated. The words, "everything is canon," has quintessentially connected every single thing that has happened on my YouTube channel as fact. So over the past couple of months, we have been looking back at every Thomas & Associates episode, all of the new series, the finale, the Mania shorts, and we've pieced together a timeline that is comprehensible, and it looks like this. So big thanks to Carter, who's excellent with Photoshop and assisted with condensing this down to be like a lot more easy to read. There's only one place to start at, so let's just jump right in and go to the very beginning. This is the Thomas & Associates timeline. Long before time had a name, there was James. And then the universe was born.
Skipping ahead to our next major event in 1942, Audrey writes the Railway series, and Hero comes to Sodor as a bomb. Skipping further ahead to some smaller events, in 1958, Ben Carson loses class president, and in 1990, the cast of Thomas and Friends are in middle school.
1 year later, in 1991, Thomas and Friends airs, a TV show based on the books consisting of the cast that were just previously in middle school. It was child labor. 18 years later, in 2009, the show switched from using actors to CGI animation, rendering all of the cast useless.
Despite being jobless, the cast stayed relatively normal up until the events of the Thomas and Associates movie, when British Thomas first appears, Timothy alongside him, introducing the cringe characters and possessing British Thomas. Henry crashes at this point, losing his voice, and Thomas becomes an asshole because he bumps into Percy. And also, soon after, in 2013, Gordon crashes the New Year's party.
On September 20th, 2015, Thomas and Associates begins. Every character collectively decides to live within Percy's house, making it very hard for him to pay his monthly rent. At the same time, Mario and Sonic meet up and start having epic adventures together. Gordon gets a cat, and it goes to a parallel universe, while Timothy comes back, possesses British Thomas once more, and attacks Thomas himself. Later on in this era, Timothy returns, and then kills Yellow Rheneas, and then he himself dies. It is also worth noting that the name of the location that most of Thomas and Associates takes place on can vary based on which episode you're watching. It's actually Percy's house, but sometimes it's called the Island of Sodor or the Island of 15 track pieces.
Moving on in the series, on to Season 4. Hitler Thomas and the Styrofoam guys first appear. Then in Season 5, the first narrow gauge news show happens. And Duck canonically gets his powers from a cereal box somewhere around this point. Then Carly first appears, and the challenge arc happens sometime around Season 6. Finally, the Tunnel of Plot Convenience is found and causes the Associo-apocalypse sometime around Season 8.
In Season 9, we meet the Coley-Fell engines. Timothy also comes back to create evil clones, and possess Sir Topham Hatt to make him forget about the cringe engines that he ordered. Also, the literal Queen of England commissions the trains to go and do some more TV show episodes with a relatively normal plot, and drivers and firemen to make it all more realistic. The first Christmas party happens, and the engines start to realize that they are in a show. Two very important arcs happen near the end of this segment, one of which being Percy getting respect by his comrades. This carries on throughout the rest of the show. The other of which being Sir Handel, being shipped from Canada. His Ertl model does not make an appearance until later on.
Finally, 2015 ends and 2016 starts, with the first mention of the landlord happening. Then, in Season 13, Henry gets his first major speaking role, an election is held, but nobody wins. Thomas goes on a blind date, and Arthur makes his first appearance here. The first actual narrow gauge news show happens. This begins the NGS Psycho arc. And then, finally, for the Season 13 finale, Alfred comes over to Percy's house, Thomas offers him drugs, and they have a really bad trip. And this was the Alfred arc. Moving on to season 14, the plot convenience tunnel returns. Thomas and co. go into it and into the code, mess it up so that Timothy returns and he gets the tunnel of plot convenience. This is the flip side arc.
Entering season 16 and 17, the last seasons of Thomas and Associates, it is confirmed that Diesel has a racist clone. Characters begin to make movie remakes of the actual show as parodies. The Tugs remake arc begins, and it is the reason why the Tugs are beached later on. Right around the time that Thomas and Associates is starting to conclude, the Evie show, a new production, begins. Finally, we have made it to the Thomas and Associates finale. Firstly, Thomas discovers that their entire existence wouldn't be anything if the Railway series wasn't written. Timothy is glitched because of prior actions in the Flipside arc, and Thomas, going into the code, discovers that him and Timothy are one and the same. Thomas becomes a glitch himself to defeat Timothy, and this is the first step of him converting to becoming Timothy himself. The two Guardians we see in the final battle are created by Timothy to keep the Thomas and Associates cast locked away in a purgatory for Thomas to transform into Timothy with time. From here, the timeline splits off between two different timelines.
The first timeline is very simple. The creators do not intervene. Thomas becomes Timothy. The timeline starts over once more, causing an infinite loop. The second timeline is the one we're on right now. Creators interrupt the timeline and kill the Guardians. The new series begins in mid-2017.
Early on, Ben Carson makes his first on-show appearance when he talks to Thomas and Thomas sells stuff. Narrow Gauge News finally goes completely off the deep end and ends up in jail after being caught during their cultist activities. Charlie is insulted multiple times by Thomas, causing the start of his transformation into the jokester. Later on, Ben Carson flies north for the winter, where he meets the Seasonal Guardians, 4 Pokemon assigned to each season that control the weather.
In Germans Returns, Hitler Thomas returns and we get his backstory. Then, Percy becomes a dictator, which ties in with the Mario and Sonic series where he's a villain. Next, Kirim is introduced, and the second Christmas happens,
which ends 2017. Now in 2018, Timothy makes his return as a joke character. The Styrofoam guys make a comeback and kidnap Henry, and Alfred returns, who is relatively normal now. Piplup's dad returns after 15 years, and Arthur starts to go psycho, but not cowboy psycho just yet.
Later on, Thomas changes Emily's birth certificate to not Emily, and soon after that, the third Christmas happens, which brings us into 2019, when Timothy gets a job as a cashier and Kirim gets fired.
The 4 seasonal gods are properly introduced in Normie's Love Fall. James burns down several charities, and the narrow gauge engines are finally redeemed, ending the Psycho arc.
Next up, Mario and Sonic finally returned and tried to genocide everyone. This brings us into the Thanksgiving special, where they appear about midway through, and finally, throughout the Mania shorts, Mario and Sonic somehow get frozen in ice in search of the ultimate weapon. Next, Erdl Sir Handel finally arrives from Canada after about 4 years. Then, the 4th Christmas happens in the Mania 5 shorts.
This brings us into 2020, where the events of the Bubba Sucks video takes place, introducing Nia and Rebecca. Fearless Freddy becomes a superhero, and Jack and the Pack are hired as a police force. Miku hires Toby to kill Thomas as a hitman, and he fails miserably. Finally, after an unknown period of time, Thomas and Associates are seen sulking in the garage after they realize all of their videos have been deleted by YouTube's new laws. They confront Susan Walla Walla Bing Bang, and she informs them that she is not the one behind the deletion of their videos. Miku reveals herself to be the true villain, always being there from day one, only photoshopped out. The ultimate weapon is used, and Miku and her villains are defeated.
After the finale's events, we skip ahead a few years to 2024, where Kanye West finally becomes president, and Rapidash then burns down the earth. What happens after that? We're not sure yet.
You may be thinking, wow, Cade, that was a lot of videos to go through for just a 10-minute explanation about the basic stuff of Thomas and Associates. Well, viewer, there's more!
Lucky for you guys, we are working on a Train Brain 06 wiki. That is right, we're gonna put all of the information that we've discovered by binging these episodes right here. And there's a main page, obviously. There's gonna be a page for each of the characters with quotes and trivia, and pages for each of the series and episodes. And basically, there's just gonna be a lot. So look forward to that.
Over the course of the rest of our lives, we will be updating the wiki with more information. So just check in frequently for new stuff. If you want to go to it right now, there should be a link in the Discord. If you want to the Discord, link in the description. And also a link to the full resolution picture of the timeline will be provided in the description as well. So thank you guys for watching. Have a good day. I'm going to find you.